So, episode 3 of The Acolyte just dropped, and it's turned out to be a somewhat controversial one, although that was actually the case before the public had seen it. A few individuals with screeners, advanced access to the episode, basically leaked that it would fundamentally change how the Force worked, how Star Wars worked, undo elements of the prequels, and I'm not sure I agree. So we'll talk about all of that and more, of course, with full spoilers in today's video. As a bit of a recap for those who didn't watch the episode, we spent our full 30 to 40 minutes in a pretty linearly presented flashback showing the childhood of May and Osha. We learned that they were raised by a coven of witches, that the Jedi traveled to the planet to basically do a welfare check and also try to take them into their custody, that Osha wanted to leave to become a Jedi. May was not chill with that. She started a fire, there was an explosion, most of the witches died. May was presumed dead, with Osha leaving basically in the company of Sol, who we know would become her master. Most of the controversy came from really two elements. The first being how the witches talk about the Force, it being a thread that ties people together across the universe. And I have to admit, I don't understand really at all the controversy here. Since the Clone Wars, really, since Star Wars Legends and groups like the Gensari, there have always been different philosophies on the Force. It's like the universe has this underlying current to it, and everyone has their own way of explaining it. The Jedi, the Fallen Aussie, the Dathomiri Night Witches, whatever. And there's different names for how the Force is used. For example, Night Sister magic, it is the Force. Just a slightly different manifestation of it. That's why it's green. But the witches in this episode, their description of the power isn't really different from how the Jedi see it. They talk about a thread woven through existence, which is not a power to be wielded, but rather a thing that basically underlies reality. That's very similar to what Yoda says in episode 5. He says, "For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the Force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship." And the Force as a tool versus an ally is a pretty common distinction when looking at light-siders versus dark-siders. So, again, I don't really understand the controversy here. The mother literally says it ties you to your destiny, it binds you to others, almost exactly the same stuff Yoda's prattling about 100 years later. However, the more controversial element of this episode definitely has to do with the heritage of Osha and May. It's revealed that their birth was somehow caused by the Force, with the mother of the witches having caused another to become pregnant through some unknown means. Now, I do think there's a little more going on here than what meets the eye. The options for their conception range from it being a sort of immaculate conception type of deal, as was the case with Anakin, obviously, to Force experiments, to something else. I'm guessing it might not be quite as simple as the mother witch, I'm sorry, I really don't know her name, used her powers to spontaneously create life. And there's one scene where the woman who carried the children almost threatens the mother with, well, what if the Jedi learned about how they were created? Now, that could simply be a warning that, hey, if they learn they were spawned from the Force, they're going to nab them and take them away, or it could indicate that there may have been some more insidious involvement, and I'm choosing my words sort of carefully there. Either way, I'm not quite ready to throw the baby out completely with the bathwater, nor am I super concerned about the fact that Osha and May were trained as older Padawans, or rather, Osha was and May was considered for it. Anakin was definitely considered to be too old as a Padawan, but there's no indication that that was always the approach, or that he was the first old Padawan to be selected. Maybe we'll learn more about why the Jedi generally had that rule in this series. Either way, we're 3 episodes in. My point is, let's just wait before saying that the show has completely broken the back of Star Wars lore. And I will say as well, we're on episode 3, we've got 5 left. The events of the night are clearly meant to be a mystery. Things aren't adding up right now. Something else is clearly going on. Like, look at Torben. He's ready to basically kill himself. when confronted by his past, and he also has what appears to me at least to be a slash from a Wookiee across the side of his face. So I don't know whether the Jedi got a little dramatic, what was going on, whether the Immaculate Conception aspect of the twins was unknown or hidden. There's a lot of mystery surrounding the night, and I think we need a bit more time to figure it out. So I'm going to wait. Now, that's not to say that I didn't have issues with the episode overall, because I certainly did, and it was probably my least favorite of the three. God, I've said this so many times. Star Wars needs to stop making 8-part movies. I feel like I'm going to be saying it for every single episode review I do for this show and probably every other. I want these episodes to feel like TV shows, because right now you watch this alone and it's just not satisfying. I've said my gripes about this many times. I'm going to leave it at that, but Star Wars needs to understand that what makes a good show is not the same thing that makes a good movie. I also think that just generally this plot may have been better interspersed throughout the entirety of the season. But I also thought this episode was really let down by kind of the directing overall. I thought the visuals were generally not good. The lighting in this show has just been really bland. That's been a problem every episode. It continued to be a problem this episode. The cinematography at times really shined, like when they were basically having their coronation. That was good, but other times it just looked extremely flat. And it also had sort of a Kenobi issue where it felt like the storyboarding maybe, or the overall like scene by scene action was letting the episode down as well. Like the fire was kind of nonsensical. There's like an explosion. We see a pile of bodies. I understand that there's almost more going on there than what we know. Probably the Sith were involved somehow, but it's just not very compelling to watch. It's almost like it's a play where the only option is to have all the actors lie out in the middle of the stage. This isn't a play. This is a TV show. Let's get a bit more creative maybe. And elements like that are really the backbone of the show, and when they don't work, the show itself just, for me personally, doesn't hit. And it's interesting because certain shows have had that issue throughout, like Kenobi. Others, I thought, haven't at all. The Mandalorian Season 1, for example, feels really good almost all of the time. Other series, like The Book of Boba Fett, I thought started great, then got a little messy as we moved on. The acting as well in this one, not great. It's always iffy when you have two children, well, one child, twice, I guess, leading the show. I thought they were okay, but not great. The main mother I thought was really good. But yeah, these are basically all my thoughts for this one. Overall, a bit of a disappointing episode. I am still interested in the overall mystery of the show, but the execution for me has really surprisingly lacked, and yeah, that's too bad. I'm not completely ready to say that it's breaking Star Wars lore, certainly not before I know the truth behind all of the mystery, so let's at least give it one season, or at least I will. I think if you're not interested in the show at this point, I'd completely understand checking out, but we'll see. Anyway, that's all for me. Until next time, guys, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you. Bye-bye.